Hello, everyone. My name is Kenton Kavestu. I'm an ex-Googler, an ex-BCG consultant, and the founder of Rocketblocks, an online platform that helps candidates prepare for interviews. In this Rocketblocks mini lesson, I'm really excited because we're sitting down with Lenny Rachitsky. Lenny was recently a product lead at Airbnb, where he spent the last 7 years working on host quality, supply growth, and guest conversion. Before Airbnb, he actually was the co-founder and CEO of a company called LocalMind, which Airbnb acquired in 2012. In this conversation, we're going to talk about all things related to the craft of product management. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk through some product scenarios. Does that sound good? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. It's like a PM interview.
Worked on guest conversion at Airbnb for a few years, I think.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Awesome. And so let's say you walk in the morning and you find out that guest conversion is down 10%. How do you think about, like, if that's the headline you see, like, what is the mental thought process you start going through at that point?
That the data is wrong, that something broke, which is actually what usually ends up happening when something's moved that much, is like some pipeline broke or
Some ETL stopped working.
Exactly. That's almost always the case when it's that dramatic. So it's usually like, okay, what broke? But if it's not that, the way to approach that is you basically look at the funnel from traffic to conversion to activation.
Yep.
And you basically just compare what happened, what was it today and yesterday. And most likely it's going to be traffic has changed in some way, which is either a channel changed or a market changed. So the way I'd approach it is you basically look at traffic by channel, like how much traffic were you getting from Google, from Facebook, from direct.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then two is by market, like how much traffic were you getting from, Spain and I don't know, South America and the US. And usually it's like one of those two things is something has happened, like SEO, Google's changed their ranking algorithm and all of a sudden SEO, you're screwed on SEO. And so now you have 10% less traffic there, or something happened in, Brazil that's like reducing the people's ability to use your product. And usually it's one of those two things. And then it's like, okay, what happened in Brazil? Let's look into it. And then is there anything we can do?
Yeah.
So it's usually those things.
Got it. So I like that. So like the first step is, okay, we've got some massive drop off. Let's just make sure things are actually working. If it's a real issue and we've confirmed the data is actually right, take a look at that entire funnel from top of funnel to bottom of funnel, and then start going through each of those funnel steps and basically dissect the funnel steps into their components. So like a very logical process of here's 5 funnel steps, and let's start at the top of the funnel and let's break that funnel step into, like you said, our traffic sources. Google,
exactly.
Facebook, direct, out of home advertising, whatever it is.
Yeah, if only you could measure it.
Actually measure it. Yeah. And then start
exactly
the problem that way. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Was that? Did you feel like at Airbnb in your role were you commonly troubleshooting issues, like not necessarily like 10%, but just like, hey, what happened here? Like our funnel has changed, the progression through it has changed. Is that a big part of your job?
Yeah. And I'd say the first step is even knowing that happened. That's like a big milestone for a company, is knowing that something like that has happened. Because a lot of times you find out later, like, oh wait, this 3 months ago, this one channel, we got 10% less traffic. What the hell? So step one is just alerting yourself when something like that happens. And then step two is deciding if you should investigate. And then step three is how to investigate. And yeah, so at Airbnb, by the time I left, we had this weekly meeting with all of the leaders of all of the businesses, and we reviewed all of the metrics that every business was essentially focused on, and then looked at the things that were different significantly, either up or down. And then there's always a question, what happened, what changed? And so our teams got really good at anticipating those questions and then just having the answer, which is a very time-consuming question to always try to figure out what happened here, because there's so many variables. And even if you get to like, okay, SEO has shifted, like why? What did Google do? What did we do? So it becomes time consuming. And so that's when it comes to, should we investigate this? Is this really worth our time right now?
Yeah.
And I find the data science team just gets fed up with this kind of stuff eventually. And just like, man, just like all we're doing, we're spending our time digging into these things. But It is important because if you don't know what's happening, then so you often learn new things about like what is working and what's not working by investigating these things.
Yeah.
And so it is actually worth your time
Yeah, I
usually.
think that's very true. I remember there was a period of time for about 2 years in my career where I managed the Zynga mobile poker team.
Mm.
We spent a lot of time at Zynga investigating all sorts of issues, like very metrics driven culture. But there was one case I remember where it was like a pretty severe issue. So I wanted the team to take a deep look at it. But basically, we'd seen like our retention curve sort of at every point just drop like around 500 basis points. Like it was pretty big. And we started looking into it. And basically, like the long short story is what had happened was the installs of our mobile app had also spiked around the same time.
Mm.
But it wasn't like a massive spike. It was like 10% or something like that. And it was a new advertising channel that a central group had turned on that was getting a ton of basically low quality installs, I think, from Turkey. And so as we were getting a bunch of new installs that no one was really paying attention to, and none of them retained, and they made it look like our overall retention rate was going through, the floor, which was really scary. And then we realized it's actually not an issue, which was a nice finding. And also, learning like, hey, go turn off that advertising channel. It's essentially wasted dollars.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting how often just like the quality of the channel impacts everything down funnel, and people don't even realize that. Like paid ads in general, kind of your lower intent, and so the more paid traffic you're sending, the lower everything's going to look.
Exactly. And if you don't
Yeah.
forecast for that and think about like, I've got a funnel that does X and people progress at this rate and retain at this rate, and then we're going to turn on paid ads and we're going to get,
Mm.
1 million people in the top of the funnel. Well, yeah, now like the progression probably is going to totally change
Yeah.
the quality of those users.
Uh, the other thing I think about in this kind of topic is people only focus usually on when things are bad, but they never look into like, hey, why did this spike 10%? That's cool.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, okay, cool, it's going up. This is great. And so I find it's valuable to also look into why did this improve?
Yeah.
What did we do right?
Yeah. That's a very good point. Great. I hope you enjoyed that snippet from my conversation with Lenny. Thank you so much for watching. We have a ton of great content coming out on both the product management and consulting career paths on a weekly basis. So if you haven't subscribed yet already, please do so. There is a big button on screen right now. And if you click that, you'll get all of our content as soon as it comes out. So thank you so much for watching and have a great day.